initiative, and I'm here today at CCAD Partnership. Outside the premises, about 4 years ago, we sowed a strip of native Irish wildflower seeds, which you can see all along the base of this wall. The seed mix that we planted was a general wildflower meadow mix. There was a range of wildflowers growing in it, and we've managed the meadow really as prescribed with the seed mixture. So what we did was we allowed the seed to grow, and we got a beautiful range of flowers in the first year. There was at least 6 or 7 different wildflowers bloomed, lots of colour, and towards the very end of the year, in October, we gave the whole strip a cut. We raked away the clippings and composted them, and the following year our meadow came back, but there was less diversity the second year. The oxeye daisies, which is the dominant flower in it now, was making up about at least 50% of it in the second year, and by the third year the oxeye daisies were 75% of it. And now today you can see just how much of it is oxeye daisy. The oxeye daisy is not the only flower in this. This is the oxeye daisy here, just for anyone who mightn't know it. We also have some yarrow, some red campion, and there are a few other flowers in there. What is interesting about the oxeye daisy, if you look down here along the edge, close in on the grass, you can see that there's lots of little small oxeye daisies which have started to spread out by seed. If this lawn was allowed to grow, the whole thing will bloom in oxeye daisies, which can be very beautiful. They're a great flower actually for pollinators, and they spend a large part of the season flowering. The lawn itself has been managed using a pollinator friendly method also since that time when we originally took on this project. Essentially what the change that was made to the lawn management here, at the time the clippings used to be composted onto this lawn itself, so the clippings were left on the ground, but we've just asked the guy cutting the lawn to remove those clippings. And sometimes when the lawn grows long, there's actually a lot of flower there's a lot of flowers bloom in it. But today it's quite clean cut, you can't see them. But if you do look down in the sward of grass, in addition to the oxeye daisies, there are a lot of other flowers like white clover, and there's some yarrow spreading out and plantains, and I know that there's a lot of prunella in this also. A little bit of it growing just here. So when you buy a pack of wildflower seed and you sow a meadow, whether it's a strip of wildflowers like this or a large meadow or a corner of the garden, the general way most people manage it is a single cut per year. But you can also manage your meadow in a different way, whereby you can cut it more than once in the year. So to try and introduce more diversity into this meadow this year, we are going to actually do more than one cut. What we're going to do here today is we're going to cut some of the oxeye daisies. We're going to strip out little pockets of it because we don't want to lose all that beautiful colour, the flowers that we have right now. So what you'll see just up here is we've stripped out one small section of oxeye daisies. We're going to take out another number of these little strips of section, so when anyone looks at it in the coming weeks, they'll still see plenty of oxeye daisies. But when the oxeye daisies have gone to seed and they start to look a little bit unsightly, we should have a sward of new flowers coming up in the zones where we introduce the cut. So what we're going to do essentially here, or what we're hoping to see happen, is that the flowering season will be prolonged. Later in the year, in September, October time, we expect that, as opposed to it all being a meadow gone to seed, that there will be a lot of it still flowering with other parts that are gone to seed. When I'm choosing the areas of the wildflower strip that I want to take out today, I'm going to try and choose it wisely. I'm going to pick the areas that look to have an awful lot of oxeye daisy in them. So somewhere like right here, I'm not going to cut, because you see there's yarrow flowering here, and we have bird's foot trefoil. There's a good bit of oxeye daisy in there still, I know, but we also have red clover, And just down here in this little piece, there's a number of red campions that have gone to seed. They're the seed heads. So if I want to, actually in a while, I might collect some of those seed heads and I could scatter them over one of the areas where I took out the oxeye daisies. And we also have a verbascum, or mullein, a lot of people call this plant. Beautiful flower, and we're glad to have it in there. When I look in this section of the wildflower strip, there's actually a good deal of diversity up here, a good deal more than there is down the lower end. So when I'm looking to find a place that I feel like has too much oxeye daisy, it's quite tricky. However, there is just a small zone here that I think will be no harm taking some out. So I'm going to strip out this section that's between the mullein and between this bed of yarrow that's growing around here. There's some knotweed also. Before I cut it though, make my job a little easier, there are a number of red campions in here that have gone to seed. And there's seeds inside in the top, inside in these pods. This one, see, that's full of seed. So what I'll do is I'm going to put some of these aside, and when I'm finished stripping out the oxeye daisies, I'll scatter the campion seed back in there, and next year the red campion might do a little bit better than the oxeye daisies. Hopefully today's video will actually show you that there's lots of little small routine maintenance jobs you can do on a meadow that help it. And they're not that much of a chore. It can be quite enjoyable things to do. So here I've collected a load of red campion seed, and as I've mentioned, we're going to scatter that here in this area, but I could save this and I could sow a little red campion meadow somewhere else if I want to. If you do want any more information on all the other things you can do with wildflower meadows, well, you can feel free to get in touch with Wildwork at any stage. Yeah. So that first bit of cut I did got me into the zone where I want to cut. And today I'm going to cut in this direction. The reason I'm doing so is that it's been very windy over the past few days, and a lot of the wildflower has been blown over that way. So it's actually easier to cut it in that direction, but that's just because of the wind at the moment. I also see a little bit of rubbish in here. No doubt that got there because of the wind also. So this is an opportunity to clean up your meadow in that sense of the word too. So now that I've the first bit of the cut made, it's very easy for me to work in that direction. And if I was cutting the entire meadow, I would just keep going. But as I said, right now I'm only going to take a little pocket up as far as the yarrows. The side is a very easy piece of equipment to use. The more experience you have at using it, the easier it is. There are lots of demo videos that you can find on YouTube, but really it's something that takes a little bit of practice. and the important thing is to be safe what you're doing. This video is not a demonstration on how to use sides, but we just say that in our experience, when people hear we use sides to maintain wildflower meadows, they look at us funny and think, geez, that must be really hard work. But actually, I have to say, if I had a preference between using this for today's job and using as trimmers, I would choose the side every single time. It's far easier to work with, more enjoyable to work with, more natural to work with. This is a simple grass rake. You can buy this in most hardware stores. Very easy to rake up the clippings. So there you go, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections taken out, but we've still only taken out about 20% of the flowers here, and the whole job has taken us about 20 minutes. So if you look up and down along the line, still lots of colour, still a really pretty area, and once we take away all the clippings, the place should look lovely. So for this job, you've seen us using a scythe and you've seen us using a grass rake. The other piece of equipment that's very useful, you can do without it, but if you're doing this on a larger scale, it's good to have them, is a hay fork or a grass fork, or where I come from, people actually call these bikes. So we call this a hay bike. It's a 3-pronged one. Usually they are 2-pronged. The 3-pronged one works quite well. These are the sort of things that farmers would use to pick up a bale of hay when there were smaller bales and throw them to the animals or load them off a trailer or so on. But you'll see how easy it is, the job. Look. Grass clippings with one of these. And actually just over here is where we have our composting area. So I can bypass the wheelbarrow if I want, and in go the grass clippings. Or if you're a little further away, you can use your wheelbarrow. This is nice, light, easy work. If you've been using the strimmers, the raking up of the clippings is an awful lot harder. So for meadow management, the theory is that we remove the clippings, and people say that's so that there isn't going to be, you're removing nutrients from the soil. And that is a fair way of putting it, but if you think about where these meadows come from, there used to be more meadows like this around Ireland, not this size, but whole fields of stuff. And they were managed in agricultural systems, much like a hay meadow. And how a hay meadow works is it gets grazed off by animals, and when you take a crop of hay, you're not leaving the hay on the ground, you're bringing it away to feed the animals again during the winter. So we're kind of mimicking that here today. Like taking the cut of the wildflower meadow, think of it as taking the cut of hay. The only difference being we're not feeding our meadow clippings to animals, although that is another thing to consider. Perhaps it's a good idea. It will depend on the wildflowers, of course, if they're suitable or not, but that discussion for another day. What we do with our clippings is we put them into this composting area. So therefore, in essence, the nutrients are being removed from the wildflower area. That will benefit the growth of wildflowers going forward, but they're being transferred to the composting area. They're going to cause other stuff to grow. So our composting area consists of a blank space in the middle, which you can't see in there. It's a big mound where all the clippings go, and it's surrounded by a wild hedge. It has blackthorn and some ornamental species in it. And then there are trees up and around that. So really, we're taking the nutrients, in this case, from the meadow to feed the hedge and feed the woodland. And anyone who's into woodland management knows that if you want trees to grow more, the more nutrients they have, the more they'll grow. So we're thinking about the full ecological cycle here. Because I think sometimes when people say, oh, you want to get rid of the nutrients out of the meadow, maybe some of us can think that the nutrients are a bad thing. They're not really, it's just that we're going to put them to a more appropriate use. So that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As we always say, if you have any questions, would like to find out more, please don't be shy. Those of us working on the Wildwork Initiative are delighted to hear from people that want to help nature. So do please get in touch. Lots more information on our website at wildwork.ie. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.